Hi, in this video I'm going to talk about computer science principles in terms of programming. I'm creating this video for the people who wants to learn programming and don't have any experience in programming, who just know a basic level of browsing, basic level of computer usage, but they want to learn programming. They want to know that how computer process programs, what are the different forms of programming. I'm creating this video and I'll be talking about different components of programming and different things that can be considered, that how computer take information from us, process the data and generate an output by that data. Okay, so there are different things that I'll be talking about. As you can see on the screen, first I'll be talking about what are the different forms of programming, different levels of programming, and then I'll be talking about how computer understand our programs. Computer don't understand our language. Computer understand its own language, that is a binary language. So I'll be talking about that. After that I'll be talking about different programming languages by giving you an example, different components of programming, that what are loops, what are if statements, how to add conditions inside programs, how to represent real world objects inside computer. And finally I'll be talking about what are the different ways to handle errors and different support for multi-platforms while writing programs. So I'll not be going through in deep in any particular language, but I'll be giving you an overview of all these computer programming components. All right, so now let's go and check out what are the different forms of programming. But before that, I just want to let you know that I have created a Facebook group called Programmers. Make sure you join that group if you want to get information related to new stuff of programming. If you want to ask any question related to programming, you can ask in that group. So I have given the link in description below. The name of group is Programmers, so make sure you join that group. So now let's start. What are the different forms of programming? About 50 years ago, the machine language was created, and that was uh, computer language, and that was also the human language for uh, giving information to machines. So what is a machine language? Machine language is the lowest level language right now. It is used to write steps or instructions directly to the processor to generate output. Machine language is very easy to understand for computer, but very difficult for us to understand it, for writing code in it, for read it. Programmer sends bits 0 or 1 of information to the processor. Nowadays machine language doesn't get used uh, because we are very conscious about our own language, so we want to learn and give information to the computer in our own language. So that's why the upper level languages were created. After machine language, the assembly language were created. It uses processor register to store the information and then manipulate the data. Registers can be varied from processor to processor. Assembler is used to convert it into machine language because computer only understand machine language. So there has to be a way, a middleware with which we should convert the assembly language into machine language. Assembly language was created for us to write and understand, and we get easy to write code in assembly language, and we created assembler for computer to understand it after its conversion. After assembly language, the interpreted language was created. So after assembly language, there were the high level languages were created, like we have C++, C, Java, more human readable, and it is a higher level of assembly or machine language. Code is executed line by line, and we can stop the code in between of execution as well, and check out the value of any particular variable that I'll be talking about later in this video. So it is actually slower than assembly or machine language, but it is nowadays our computers are very fast, so it doesn't matter that how slow it is. Our the um, very um, very big processors and RAMs and hard drives make these languages pretty fast. So the example of interpreted language is JavaScript, and the last one is the compiled language. It is the again the higher level of machine and assembly language. So it is human readable instructions are given to compilers to convert the code into byte code. It compile whole program at once. When any change occur, whole code needs to be recompiled. There are many languages that are interpreted language and compiled language, just like Java. Java can be executed line by line or can be executed the whole code at once. All right, that Java is actually the platform independent language that can be converted from high level language to the assembly language in the bytecode, and then bytecode convert into machine language depends upon the platform, whether it's a mobile device, whether it's a desktop device, whether it's a web device. That bytecode is converted according to the platform. So right now in the world there are many other languages are being created, many high level languages are being created. These Java, C Sharp are the fourth level languages. Right now there are many advanced languages have been created, just like we have different frameworks for JavaScript, React, Angular, we have Python, we have Ruby on Rails. These are very high level languages. So now let's talk about different components of programming. First, I'll start talking about variables. So what are variables? When we give information to computer, it needs to store that information in the RAM. All right. And for us, for over easiness, we define that value in the variable inside our program, and after that that value is stored in any of the block of RAM. So there are different types of variables. I'll be talking about the general data types, but there are different data types in different languages, different data types in Java, different data types in C Sharp, different data types in Python, Ruby on Rails. So I'll be talking about the general data types. So first one is the byte data type. If you want to store any one character in a variable, just like we want to store one, we want to store A, F or G, we can't store more than one character in the byte variable. So you can see that we have the space 8-bit. This stands for the 0 to 255 and can only contain one character, and this is how we define the byte. We define the byte A equals to 0. So this is how we are creating the byte variable, and it is consuming a space in the RAM, and it is consuming 8 bits in the RAM. Now the next one is the integer. Integer is 32-bit and can contain positive and negative values. In order to initialize integer variables, we use int keyword, and after that we write the name of that variable, and after that we can assign a value inside that variable. All right, and right now you can see that we can also store any value of another variable into a new variable. We are adding up the value of A, which is 345, and adding up 2 inside it, so the value becomes 347, and it's gonna return its value into B. All right, and after that we can also use other operators. We can use multiplication, we can use division, we can use subtraction, mod. So this is how we can work with integers. The next one is the boolean. If you want to check out the condition that if it's true or false, it's just a 1-bit and can only contain these two words. It can only contain true or false. All right, and this is how we define a variable of boolean type in Java. Okay, so boolean A equals to true, and we can also assign the value of A in another boolean variable, which is B. All right, so the next data type is double. Sometimes we want to represent the currencies which is in decimal format. We want to represent different points which is in also decimal points. So the space of double variable in the RAM is 64-bit. I'm talking about Java. Okay, there are different spaces for different languages. So this tutorial I'll be talking about with respect to Java. Okay, so it contains 64-bit space and can also contain negative and positive values. And now this is how we can define variables same as with other data types. And last one is the string. String is actually an object, and other one was the primitive data types. We can store multiple characters in a variable, just like we can store string a equals to comma double quotes A, B, C, D. All right, and we can also concatenate any particular string with the previous string. Right now you can see that we are concatenating the value of A with E, F, G, H, I. Now the B will have the value from A to I. All right, so this is how we can store different values, multiple characters in any variable. Now let's talk about functions. All the tasks that needs to be executed again and again are added inside blocks called functions. We don't need to write same code again and again, rather call that function when needed. Functions are of different types. I'm going to talk about the three types of functions and giving you an example of JavaScript that how the function works. There are different ways to define functions in different languages, but the purpose of function is same in all languages. So first one is without parameter and no return value. What if we want to print an error at different positions of our software? All right, rather than writing the same line of code again and again, we define a function like this. We write function and name of function, and inside that function we can write any number of statements. All right, right now I've just written one statement. So when I'll call this function, it's gonna give a pop-up window showing that fields must be filled. So I'm not gonna give this function anything, and it's not returning anything. The next example of function is parameters and no return value. So what if I want to give a function values? There can be multiple values, one value. So I'm giving it an example, and I want it to show the result of average of these two numbers. So this a is the integer, this b is the integer. So I am adding up these values and divided by 2. So the result of it is gonna store inside ave. All right, and it's gonna then print the result of ave variable with the string average of numbers is this. So this is the second form of function. The third form of function is the parameters and return values. What if I want the function to calculate the average on the variables that I have sent inside the function, and then I want it to return the result of that calculation? So I can use a return. Most of the languages we need to define a data type, that what data type should it return. In JavaScript we don't need to define the return data type, because in JavaScript we don't define int, double, string. We just define var variable, and it automatically identifies that its value is integer, double, or string. So right now I'm trying to use this function. All right, so this is how I'm calling that function and sending it 25 and 65. It's gonna call that function, and it's gonna return the result of it, and the result will be stored in the result variable. All right, and then I am uh, showing the result value in the pop-up window. The usage of function should be outside that function. It shouldn't be inside that function. If it inside that function, it becomes recursion. I have already created a recursion that is pretty much advanced level course. I have created a video that how to use recursion in Java and solve practice problems for recursion. All right, so next let's talk about different scopes of variables. Scope of variable is very important if you want to uh, work with functions, loops, nested loops, and it's very important for you to know that where to define variables and where not to define variables. All right, right now you can see that I have defined a function and I have created variable inside that function. I haven't created it outside that function. So I have entered a values in the variables, and I'm calculating the values, like I'm adding up b and c and then multiply it with a and storing the result of it in variable d, and I'm popping out in the pop-up window the result of d. Now if I try to use these variables outside this function, it's gonna give me an error because I have defined these variables inside that function. Any variable that is defined inside any block of code cannot be used outside that block, but it can be used in the child block of that code. Like inside that function, if we have added a new function, another function, and inside the nested function, if I want to use variable a, I can use it, but I can't use it in the uh, parent block of this function or the parallel block of this function. So defining scope is very important. Okay, so now let's go and check out the user inputs. Almost every software require user input. If you take an example, that if we have a calculator, we ask user to enter numbers and select the operator and select another number, and it presses the equal sign in order to get the result. All right, so this is how we can get the input from user. So we need to find out that how to get the input from user and how to work with it. So most of the software require input from user to execute further. For example, we have calculator application that needs to take input from user to perform operations on data and produce result according to that. There are different platforms from which user can give input, like keyboard, mouse, touch screen. In different languages there are different ways to take input from user. For example, I'll be giving you an example of C++ because it contains shorter statements for getting input from the user. All right, you can use other languages as well, but I want to give you the overview, the idea that how input works and how we can process any value with the help of variables with which we have taken input from the user. So you can see in the example below that I have defined an int variable and name that variable a. All right, and see how this is the C++ syntax. I'm gonna give the message that enter a number. All right, and user will read it and it's gonna enter a number, and I'm going to receive the input that user will enter in the variable a. So a will contain the value that user will enter. Now after that I have taken input from user, and now I am showing the output value of that variable a, that you have entered a. All right, so it's very important. Now let's talk about conditional statements. uh, Most of the time we need to add a condition before performing any task. Like we ask user to enter his age, we can add a condition here that user may enter negative values, and if user enter valid value, we can further proceed to next operations. There are many ways to add a condition of any data, but if-else statements are most commonly used in many languages. This is the diagram of if-else statement. What if we want to add a condition, like we ask user to enter his age and we want to check out that if the user may not enter negative values because age, negative value of age does not exist. All right, so right now if user enter a value, right here we are checking it if it's true, if it's greater than 0, if we are checking up our age, then go to this block of code. If it is false, then go to this block of code. It is not required to write the false block of code, but we need to add a if condition to enter into a true block of code. All right, so let's check out the example of conditional statements. Let's say I'm asking user to enter his age. All right, it's in variable a, and I'm checking if the value of a is greater than 0, then proceed further. Then we will proceed for the next process. We can do anything. Okay, else I'm going to show a message to user that you have entered a wrong value, you have entered a negative value if this condition is false. If statement takes true or false, and this is going to return true or false. The greater than equal to sign means that if the value of a is greater than 0 or equal to 0, then proceed further and comes inside if block. If any of these condition matches, then it will come inside this block. There are many other operators, like you can see that we have less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. If we want to check out if a equals to 10, a equals to 20, then we can write double equals. Single equal is used to assign a value inside a variable, but inside if condition we need to use double equals. So we can also add and or, and we can write multiple conditions. Like if we want to check if the age is greater than 0 and is true, it's always gonna true, but we need to write actual condition right here. I have just written it just for illustration. Just like here we can see that if a is greater than 0 or a equals to 2, then come inside if block. Any of these conditions should be true, and right here both the conditions should be true. If both the conditions are true, then come inside this if block. We can write multiple conditions as much as we want. So now let's talk about repetitions. In many programming languages, we have loops for repeating multiple data. Like in programming, we might want to repeat things multiple times. For example, we want to print the marks of all students in the class. In that case, we can't write multiple print statements to print the whole data. In programming languages, we have loops that can iterate through any kind of data. Let's say we have started from here and it's going to check out the condition. If the condition is true, I'm going to execute the code. It's gonna again check out the condition. If condition is true, I'm gonna execute the code, and it's gonna keep on executing the code unless this condition doesn't get false. Once it gets false, it's gonna come to the end. All right, and this is where our loop will end. Let's check out that how loop work. I'm gonna talk about two main loops. There are multiple loops right now in mainly major languages like Java, C Sharp, Python, Ruby on Rails. But just to give you an overview that how loop works, I'm gonna give you an example using two basic loops that is mostly used, while loop and for loop. So while loop, I have initialized a variable a with a value 0 in the data type int, and I'm running a while, and I've added a condition. If a is less than 5, unless this condition gets false, keep on executing this block of while. All right, the block starts with the curly braces and ends with the closed curly braces, and it's gonna print a. You can see that a is 0, so it has printed a, value of a, and after that I'm incrementing the value of a. First the a is 0 and now a becomes 1. It's gonna go back to while loop again and check out if the condition is true. So 1 is less than 5, it's true. It's gonna again come inside it, so it's gonna print 1. All right, it's gonna keep on incrementing the value of a and keep on checking the condition of a. So when a becomes 5, this condition will get false because 5 is not less than 5, and this while loop will end the execution. So we will print a up to 4, and now the same thing can be printed with for loop, which is a slightly shorter way of iterating through any values. So I have initialized a value inside the loop. I have add a condition inside the loop, and I have added increment or decrement inside the loop, and after that I am printing the value of a right here. All right, so there are another data structure that we can store values inside. If we say that we want to store multiple values in single variable, like if we want to store multiple phone numbers of a person, then we must need a variable and a collection of variable that should store all the phone numbers of a user. In Java, in many other languages, we can define array like this. We can write int data type of values, the values name, and the square brackets, and after that we can define multiple values inside that numbers variable. And in order to print these values inside that variable, we can use for loop, we can use while loop, but I've just illustrated it with the help of for loop. So you can see that I have started the loop from I equals to 0, and I have added a condition that go and execute the block of for loop unless this condition gets false. So I'm starting with 0 because I is equal to 0 at start, and it's gonna end up executing the code unless I becomes equal to or greater than the numbers dot length. All right, so I am printing the numbers, and numbers we can print these values. These the index of these numbers starts with 0, so I is 0 at start, so numbers 0, it will print 1. All right, next time numbers 1, because I will be incremented, it's gonna print 2. So this is how it's gonna print these values. All right, so next we have objects. Everything that we see in the real world is an object. We have people, we have mobile phones, we have bat, ball, we have cars, we have aeroplanes, all are objects. To represent real world objects in programming, developers introduced class which represent each object. Just like a person have properties like height, weight, age, class also have properties that we can work with. Just like properties, each object has some functions like person can walk, person can speak, and so the same object functions can be inside the class. So in order to define a class, we need to write a keyword class, and after that we can define the name of that class. All right, and after that we can define different properties of that object. We have a person, and person can have age, can have weight, can have degrees, can have phone numbers, can have multiple properties. So I've just added two properties right here, and right now I have added a string hair color, that what is the color of his hair, and I have added a function that get age. It's going to return me the age of that function. We can add multiple properties, we can add multiple functions, and this is the template that we have created. Now if we want to create many persons like that belongs to that we only need the properties of that person that include age, weight, and hair color, we can call that class and we can create a person one. And if we want to create a second person, we will call that class and construct the person 2. And this is how we can keep on constructing the same objects out of that class, having the same properties, having the same functions. So this enables us to reuse basic code. All right, now the last thing that I want to talk about is debugging. Once we write code, we have written code, there are many softwares that contains millions of lines of code. All right, so it's very hard to maintain the code. In many IDEs, many editors in which we write code are given with the built-in debuggers. All right, we can use those debuggers and stop the execution of program in between the execution, and we can then check out the value of any specific value. All right, we can also manually debug any program if our software is not pretty large. We can manually check out different lines of code, but it's very not the appropriate way to debug our software. We can write the different scenarios that these scenarios should be matched, and we can just run our software and check those scenarios, that if those scenarios are working fine, then we execute our program, then we find that our product has been done. And after that we can write automated testing. We can write tests that we write with the help of actual coding. We are given with different frameworks, different languages with which we can write testing any particular language. All right, so it's not a very easy way, but once we write it, we can easily maintain the actual software. The last one is the test driven development. Nowadays it's very famous. Most of the industries are following this test driven development. What we do in it, that we write our test first, and after that we match the test, the criteria written inside the test, and according to that test we write our actual code, so that when that test is running, our actual code should work pretty well according to that test. All right, so that was all for this. I hope that you have liked it, and again, this course was for pretty beginners that who wants to learn programming. I hope that you have got the idea what are the different components of programming. I have already created many other tutorials about Java, about JavaScript, game development, software development. Make sure to check out my channel. That is a YouTube channel for other videos, and it's you are gonna learn a lot once you get the idea that how programming works, and after that you are gonna write the actual code with the help of any language that you want, or if I have created a tutorial about, you can check that out. Just check out my channel and subscribe that channel, like this video. If you have any questions, comment below, and make sure you join the group that I told you, and the link of that group is given in the description below. Thanks for watching this video.